Okay, we are going to be going over a trig unit while you guys are at home. Trigonometry, reason we're going over this is a big part on that ACT, and honestly, it's the questions that they have on the ACT usually aren't super difficult, so they can be easy points for you guys to pick up as long as you know what you're doing. Today, in this first video, we're going to go over finding trigonometric ratios. Okay, so we're just going to talk about finding what these three fractions are. On the second video, we're going to talk about using these trigonometric ratios to find our angle values. So, starting out, maybe. There we go. Trigonometry, it is the study of right triangles. Okay, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it can also be used for circles. But the main part that we're going to talk about is trig that is used for right triangles. A trigonometric ratio is a ratio of the lengths of any two sides of a right triangle. So we're going to be just talking about the relationship between two of the sides of a right triangle. A function whose rule is a trigonometric ratio is considered a trigonometric function. And there are three common trigonometric functions. The three common ones are sine. You guys will always see sine written as S-I-N. Don't call it sin. Okay, you're going to sound uneducated. So sine, which is going to be written S-I-N, cosine, which is going to be written C-O-S, and tangent, which is going to be written as tan. So every time you guys see these written, you're going to see sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, and that's what they stand for. All right, trig vocabulary. Right angle would be our 90-degree angle. It's going to be represented with a box. However, the 90-degree angle really isn't that important. What's important is using a reference angle. Your reference angle is what is going to be important. The reference angle is the one that we are referring to, and it's usually denoted with a theta. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys right down here, this right here is our reference angle. Okay, that is our reference angle. Okay, that sign right there, that is our theta. Okay, so what is theta? Well, theta is a Greek letter, and it is a variable, so it's just like x and y. Okay, and this variable is used to represent an angle's measure. Okay, it's always used to refer for an angle measure. So if you ever see theta, they're asking you what does that angle equal. Now, the ratio of the sides, we said it's a ratio between two sides of a right triangle. And these sides each have a specific name. And as you guys are working through your homework, if you guys are messing up problems on these, it might be that you are naming the sides the wrong sides. So you might need to refer back to this video while you guys are taking notes. Okay? So, starting out, the hypotenuse. Okay? I think you guys probably know what your hypotenuse is. It's the longest side of a triangle. Your hypotenuse is going to be the side that is opposite of the right angle. So if this is our right angle here, I drew this arrow to show you guys that the side opposite of it is called our hypotenuse. Okay? The next side that we are going to go over is going to be called your opposite side. Okay? Your opposite side is the side opposite the reference angle. So we went to our 90-degree angle and we drew a line to the opposite side, which was the hypotenuse. I'm going to do the same thing to find the opposite side. The opposite side, though, I'm going to start here at my reference angle, and I'm going to draw a line to the opposite side of that triangle. This side here is the opposite side. Okay? So you've got your hypotenuse. Your hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle. You've got your opposite side. It's the side that's opposite your reference angle. The last side that we have is our adjacent side. And that's the side that shares the right angle and the reference angle. So we've got our right angle, our reference angle. That means that this right here is our adjacent side. I'm pretty sure I'm spelling adjacent wrong. Sorry. Okay. And it's very important to know how to identify what those sides of the triangle are. Okay. And those are going to help us with our trig ratios. Your trig ratio is going to be a relationship between your opposite and your hypotenuse. A relationship between your opposite and your adjacent. Your adjacent and your hypotenuse. Okay, so real quick, just a review of how to find these things here. Okay, your hypotenuse is going to be opposite your right angle. your opposite side is going to be opposite your theta, okay? I think that these two sides are the easiest two sides to find. So I always tell kids to find your opposite and find your hypotenuse, okay? The last side is just the one that's left over. This one's the one that's left over. So that has to be our adjacent side, okay? Now, using those trig ratios, we have our 3 that we've gone over, okay? So starting out, sine, okay? Sine of A, it's talking about sine of angle A there. You could also have that written as sine of theta, sorry. You could also have that as sine theta, okay? Now, sine theta is the relationship between your opposite side and your hypotenuse. Cosine theta is the relationship between your adjacent and your hypotenuse. Tangent is the relationship between your opposite and your adjacent. You guys are going to be expected to have this memorized when you guys go and take your ACT test. So how are you guys going to memorize this? Because you're not going to want to just, have this page out in front of you and try to memorize it. Well, they have a helpful saying to help you guys remember this. And you guys may have heard this before. But the helpful saying is SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Okay? So, whoops. If you guys remember SOHCAHTOA, that will help you guys to remember your trig functions. So the first part of this, So represents our sine as opposite over hypotenuse. So how does that work? Well, that's going to be sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Whoops, went too quick. So sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Then you have your CA. CA helps you remember your cosine. Cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Lastly, you have your tangent. Tangent equals opposite over adjacent. Okay? There are a lot of other sayings that you guys can use to help you remember. I, in high school, always struggled to remember how to spell "ca," which might sound dumb, but it's just a sound, so I always never knew how to spell it. Okay? Another saying that you can use to help you guys remember SOHCAHTOA would be some old horse caught another horse taking oats away. That one sounds kind of dumb, I think. The one that I'm not supposed to tell you guys, but I'm going to tell you guys anyway, that I think a lot of you guys remember, will be some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay? So remember SOHCAHTOA, or you can remember one of those other two sayings. I'm sure there's other sayings out there too to help you guys remember. Okay? So with that being said, now we're going to use these values that we just learned to find our different trig ratios. Okay? So starting out, it says find the values of sine, cosine, and tangent of angle B. So my goal for this is I'm going to find sine of B, I'm going to find cosine of B, and I'm going to find tangent of B. So the first step is I need to find my reference angle. Well, my reference angle is angle B. It tells us that right there. So this right here is our reference angle. So I know that that's my reference angle, and now I need to go through and I need to identify. The first step is to identify your opposite, your hypotenuse, and your adjacent. Okay? I always start out with identifying my opposite and my hypotenuse first. So hypotenuse, we go to our right angle. Hypotenuse is the side that is opposite my right angle. To find my opposite side, I'm going to go to my reference angle, which would be my theta. My opposite side is opposite my theta. So 7 is my opposite, 25 is my hypotenuse, which means that 24, the one that's left over, has to be my adjacent side. Okay? In the past, I've had kids say they think it's easy to identify the adjacent. It's the side that's between the right angle and the reference angle. It's up to you guys. You just have to be able to identify each of those parts there. Now, doing this problem, we have sine of B. So sine, I've got to remember, so, okay, it's SOHCAHTOA, right? So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to look. My opposite side is a 7. My hypotenuse is a 25. That's my answer for sine of B. Okay? Cosine of B. That would be ca. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So my adjacent side is 24 over my hypotenuse, which is 25. Okay? Last, I have tangent of B. Tangent of B is my TOA. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent. So my opposite side is 7. My adjacent side is 24. And those are my answers for those. We're going to have a worksheet that you guys are going to do. It's got Chief SOHCAHTOA on top, and it's going to give you an angle, and you're going to use that angle to figure out one of these trig functions based on a triangle. Okay? Next, do one more example. Whoops. Didn't know I had it. Whoops. Okay? We've got a different one here, a different triangle. Okay? Now they've told us to find the values of sine, cosine, and tangent of angle C. So sine of C, cosine of C, tangent of C. Okay? Identify my reference angle. That's angle C there. Okay? Remember, I always identify my opposite, my hypotenuse first. So opposite would be 1. Hypotenuse would be 2, which means that angle or square root of 3 is my adjacent side. Okay? So sine of C would be so opposite over hypotenuse, 1/2. Okay? Cosine of C, cosine of C. So I'm going to do adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be square root of 3 over 2. And then my last one would be TOA, tangent. That's my TOA. So opposite over adjacent. Now there's one special trick for this. Do you guys remember when we dealt with square roots that we cannot have square roots on the bottom of a fraction? Okay? So I have a square root of 3 down there. On your homework, this isn't going to be an issue. But when we do problems later on, like in lesson 9.3, this does kind of become an issue. I cannot have that square root at the bottom, so I have to get it off. Remember, if you have a square root of something on the bottom of a fraction, you just need to multiply it by that square root of 3. And if I do something to the bottom of the fraction, I have to do it to the top as well. So up top, I end up with a 1 times the square root of 3, which is just a square root of 3. And then on the bottom, I have a square root of 3 times a square root of 3, which square root of 3 times square root of 3 gives me a square root of 3 times 3, which would be a square root of 9. And hopefully you guys remember that a square root of 9 is 3. So you've got a square root of 3 over 3. I don't think on your homework you guys are going to have to do this. I'm pretty sure you don't. But that will come to play in lesson 9.3. Okay, next video, and this is totally up to you guys. You guys may want to go ahead and do the Chief SOHCAHTOA worksheet because that's all going to be on this. And then you can watch the second video. The second video is going to be on the front side of that homework. Okay, we're going to go over how to find a missing angle of a triangle.